Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. For those of you returning, you already know Master Jun Hong Lu's mission, promoting peace and helping people through those insightful Buddhist teachings of his. If you're new here, definitely check out our first episode for his full story.
Definitely worth a listen.
Totally. So today we're diving headfirst into Buddhism in plain terms, Vol 1.1, trying to see, how these principles can actually unlock some of that wisdom for us in everyday life. And a super quick note, this is all educational, totally nonprofit, just spreading the knowledge.
Love that. Always up for unlocking some wisdom.
Me too. Master Lu says something right off the bat that really got me thinking.
Oh, yeah.
He says, and I'm going to quote this one because it's good. Firstly, I would like to tell everyone that the objective of learning Buddhism is to restore our inherent wisdom and our moral capabilities. Deep stuff, right?
It is.
It's like we're all born with this potential, but somewhere along the way, life happens and we kind of lose touch with it.
Yeah, like we get sidetracked.
Exactly. What do you think? Does it resonate with you?
Absolutely. Think about it. Like when we're kids, we have that natural curiosity, that sense of wonder about everything, right?
Totally.
But then, well, life throws all those curveballs. We pick up some bad habits along the way, and boom, that inherent wisdom feels like it's buried somewhere deep down.
Yeah, exactly.
Master Lu's saying it's not gone, though. We just got to, restore it, bring it back to the surface.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
So then, how do we actually do that? He talks a lot about this idea of cultivating a pure mind, but what does that even look like, practically speaking?
Right. Well, Master Lu's really clear. It's not just about believing in something, just having faith.
It's got to be more than that.
Way more. It's about taking action. Walking the walk, not just talking the talk. He writes, and this is important, cultivating one's mind involves eliminating bad habits that stem from ignorance, battling selfishness, clearing the mind, correcting mistaken ideas, rectifying erroneous perceptions and actions. It's an ongoing thing, this self-reflection, refining ourselves.
So it's like a constant spring cleaning, but for your mind.
Exactly. Got to get rid of all that mental clutter before you can invite the good stuff in. Making space for that wisdom to come through, by letting go of all the negativity, negative thoughts, those limiting beliefs we pick up, even harmful habits. Got to toss them out.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So let's get real world for a second.
Sure.
Say you're stuck in traffic and you're getting super frustrated, like road rage brewing.
Classic.
How would this idea of purifying your mind actually help in that situation?
Okay, great example. So instead of letting that anger take over, engulf you.
Which is easy to do, let's be real.
Oh, totally. But you can practice mindfulness, right? You notice that frustration building, you acknowledge it, but you don't let it consume you. Master Lu might ask, is being angry going to get you out of traffic any faster?
Probably not.
Nope. So maybe take a deep breath. Focus on something positive. Heck, even try some loving kindness meditations. Send those good vibes out to the other drivers.
Right. Send them some patience.
Exactly. It's all about shifting that perspective, choosing a better response, even when things are tough.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, Master Lu also talks about equality. Huge concept in Buddhism, of course.
Absolutely.
But he says true equality comes from our innate nature, our very being. How does that work? I mean, aren't we all different in so many ways?
He's getting at this idea that beneath all those differences, like underneath it all, we share something fundamental, this essence.
Okay.
We all experience joy, sorrow, love, loss. It's part of being human. Realizing that shared humanity, that's the foundation for real equality, he says.
So it's not about pretending we're all the same, but recognizing that shared human experience despite our differences.
You got it. It's about looking at the world with compassion and understanding, recognizing everyone's on their own journey, they've got their own unique challenges. We're all in this together, kind of.
And that leads us to another biggie.
Yeah.
Equanimity. How does that tie into this whole equality thing?
Well, Master Lu says, and I'm quoting here, equanimity is acquired through cultivation, which requires us to learn to get around our mental blocks with wisdom. It's about cultivating this inner peace, this balance within ourselves, regardless of what's happening around us, externally.
Sounds lovely, but also maybe a little impossible.
It's a practice, for sure.
Like, how do you stay calm when your flight gets canceled?
Yeah.
Or you lose your job, or, I don't know, you spill coffee all over your brand new white shirt?
It's tough, but Master Lu might point out those external things, they don't have to dictate how you feel inside.
Oh, interesting.
It's about using that wisdom we're talking about to see the bigger picture. And then you can choose a response that doesn't add to your suffering.
So instead of freaking out about that canceled flight, you might see it as a chance to catch up on some reading or spend some unexpected time with your family or something.
Exactly. Shifting that perspective, choosing a response that's aligned with your values, rather than just reacting impulsively from fear or frustration.
Okay, I can get behind that. This is great stuff. Okay, I want to shift gears for a sec, though. Talk about the role of teachers.
Teachers.
Yeah, Master Lu have a lot to say about how important they are, even putting them on par with parents. Like, that's a big statement.
Huge. He actually quotes the saying, and it really sums it up: a teacher for a day is a father for a lifetime. Powerful, right?
Wow. What's he getting at with that?
He's saying a true teacher, they can have a huge impact on our lives, not just giving us knowledge, but shaping our character, guiding us toward our full potential, all that. He thinks true teachers, they care about their students with like their whole being, their heart, their soul, even protecting them with their own energy field. He really believes that.
Well, their energy field. Okay.
Yeah, it gets pretty deep. And then he says something even more wild, like there are things that even your own parents may not be able to accomplish, but they can be done by the master. It makes you wonder, what could those things even be?
Right. It's this idea of a master guiding us, leading us to a higher level of understanding, even saving our souls, the way Master Lu puts it. Like finding someone who can help us bust through our own limitations, connect with our true selves.
He's not just talking about himself as the master.
No.
No, not at all. He means any teacher who puts us on the right path, shows us the way.
Could be anyone, really. A spiritual leader, a mentor, a coach. Heck, even a friend who inspires you to be your best.
Absolutely. Anyone who pushes you to grow.
That makes sense. You know, one thing I always struggle with is this whole harmony thing.
Harmony.
Yeah, especially when people have totally different views. Like, how do you even begin to find common ground when everyone's disagreeing? Master Lu talks about achieving harmony through shared understanding, but how is that even possible when there's so much conflict?
It's a tough one, for sure. He gets that it's not always easy, but he really emphasizes starting those conversations with sincerity, avoiding what he calls the deluded mind.
Ooh, deluded mind. That sounds kind of scary. What does that even mean?
It's not as spooky as it sounds. He's basically talking about a mind that's clouded, clouded by ego, attachment, rigid beliefs, that kind of stuff.
So like that person who always has to be right, no matter what.
Bingo. And Master Lu might say, going into a conversation with that mindset, it's just going to lead to more conflict, more division. No one wins.
So how do we avoid that trap? How do we find harmony when everyone's coming from such different places?
He says, approach those conversations with an open heart, a willingness to really listen deeply, and a genuine desire to understand the other person's point of view, even if you don't agree with it.
That's tough. A real challenge.
It is. But it makes sense, right? If everyone's just trying to win the argument, then no one really wins. We're just adding fuel to the fire.
Totally. So it's more about collaboration than competition.
Exactly. And Master Lu believes that when we start from that place, that intention to understand, we create space for genuine connection, even amidst all those differences.
I like that. This is giving me a lot to think about, gotta be honest. I think I'm probably guilty of going into disagreements with a bit of a deluded mind more often than I'd like to admit.
We all do it. It's human. The key is being aware of it, catching yourself and making that conscious effort to shift your perspective. Approach those conversations with more openness and compassion. It's a practice, just like everything else.
Okay, before we go too much further, I think we need a quick intermezzo to digest all this wisdom. We'll be back in a moment to explore even more of Master Lu's teachings.
Sounds good to me. All right, we're back, ready to dive back into the wisdom of Master Jun Hong Lu.
I am. That was a good break. So we were talking about finding harmony even when people have completely different views. It's tough. And Master Lu says this: the highest state of cultivation is to resolve an issue amicably without restraining or suppressing oneself. What's that actually look like, though, in real life?
It's interesting, right? Because sometimes, we do suppress how we really feel just to keep the peace, but that can backfire.
Yeah, totally. It's like bottling it all up. Not healthy.
Not at all. It can build resentment over time. Master Lu's suggesting a different approach, a more I guess you'd say, skillful approach.
So it's not just about biting your tongue and letting things fester.
Nope. It's about finding a way to express your needs and feelings honestly, respectfully, even when it's hard. He uses this really cool analogy, actually, about the Chinese character for forbearance.
Ren. It's a knife hanging over a heart.
Whoa, that's intense imagery.
It is, but it
Yeah.
really illustrates how forbearance, it only goes so far before it starts to hurt us.
Oh, yeah.
Master Lu saying true harmony, it takes more than just putting up with difficult situations. It's about actively working through them with wisdom and compassion. Not easy, but worth it, I guess. So how do you actually do that? Let's say you're having a disagreement with a coworker and they're being totally unreasonable. How do you strike that balance between, like, standing up for yourself and not letting things explode?
That's where good intent comes in. Master Lu says, and I love this quote, "If a very kind, original intent is used when solving problems, then every problem can indeed be readily solved." So it's about approaching that situation, whatever it is, with a genuine desire to find a solution that works for everyone, not about winning or being right.
So just starting from that place of kindness, understanding, it can really change everything.
Absolutely. It sets a completely different tone for that conversation. Instead of attacking the person, you can focus on the problem itself, trying to find that common ground.
It's funny, this is making me think about how I handle disagreements in my own life.
Yeah.
I definitely have some work to do.
Don't we all? It's something we're always working on, right? But like Master Lu reminds us, even those small shifts in how we approach things, they can make a huge difference in our relationships, our overall well-being too. It all ripples out.
One thing that really struck me as we were prepping for this deep dive was Master Lu's point about uh, how rare true Buddha Dharma is in this day and age. The age of Dharma decline, he calls it. He even says, it is hard to get to hear the Buddha Dharma. What does that even mean, though?
It's a bit of a reality check, right? Like there's so much information out there about Buddhism now, books, websites, you name it.
Right, it's everywhere.
But he's saying true understanding, truly embodying those teachings, it's actually pretty rare.
So it's not enough to just read a book or follow some rituals. There's got to be more to it.
He'd say so, yeah. It's about actually living those teachings, putting
Yeah.
them into practice every day. He even cautions against blindly following rituals without really getting their deeper meaning. It's not about going through the motions. It's about the heart, the intention behind it all.
How can we even know if we're on the right track, then? It all sounds kind of daunting.
Well, Master Lu makes this distinction between a bodhisattva and a Buddha. He says a bodhisattva, they have a good understanding of the teachings, they're doing the work. But a Buddha, they've achieved that complete enlightenment, that awakening. It's like levels.
A spectrum.
So it's not about reaching some perfect state overnight, but it's about constantly striving for that deeper understanding and putting what you learn into action. It's a process, a journey.
Exactly. A lifelong one, really.
Yeah.
Always learning, always growing.
This reminds me of something we talked about earlier, how Master Lu stresses both blessings and wisdom. It's not just about doing good deeds, it's also about developing that deeper understanding. They go hand in hand.
That's so key. He draws a clear line between just being a believer and actually being a practitioner. Putting it all together, compassion and wisdom, living it out in the world, that's where the magic happens.
Okay, so if we're not supposed to just blindly follow rituals, how do we actually gain that wisdom? Where does it come from? He quotes this classic teaching, and it's a good one. Only by observing the precepts can one attain concentration, and only by attaining concentration can one attain wisdom. It's all connected.
The precepts. We keep going back to those. What's the big deal with them, really? Why are they so important?
They're the foundation, really. Master Lu sees them as these guidelines for ethical conduct. They help us cultivate a more peaceful mind, a more harmonious way of being. He breaks them down pretty simply. No killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no intoxication. Pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, I mean, even for people who aren't Buddhist, most of those sound like pretty solid advice for living a good life. Common sense, almost.
Exactly. It's all rooted in those universal values: kindness, honesty, respect, things we all strive for in some way.
Okay, I think we need another intermezzo to let all this sink in. We'll be right back. To wrap up our deep dive into Master Lu's teachings.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back. So, We've covered a lot about the Five Precepts, but Master Lu actually spends a good chunk of Buddhism in plain terms, really unpacking each one, gets into the details.
He does. It's super interesting how he ties it all back to everyday life. Not just spiritual stuff, but how we live, the choices we make, all that.
Okay, yeah, let's get into that. Let's take the first one, refraining from killing. Obviously, we're not supposed to harm other beings.
Hmm.
Pretty basic. But what does Master Lu say that kind of goes beyond that?
Right. Well, he talks about how killing creates this negative karma. And that can lead to suffering not just in this life, but in future lives, too. It's heavy stuff.
Karma, future lives,
Yeah,
always a bit mind-boggling.
totally. But he also says it's not just about physical violence, you know? It's about our intentions, the energy we put out into the world. That matters, too.
So even having negative thoughts like wishing someone harm, that could be a violation, even if you don't act on it.
You might say so, yeah. It's about cultivating this mindset of compassion, non-harming, in every aspect of our lives. Thinking, speaking, acting.
Kind of like that saying, what you put out into the universe comes back to you.
Exactly. If you're always putting out negativity, you're going to attract more negativity. It's just how it works.
Okay, that makes sense. So, second precept, refraining from stealing. Again, seems pretty straightforward. But I'm sure Master Lu has some insights here too.
Oh, yeah. He talks about how stealing creates this sense of lack, and insecurity, not just for the person who was stolen from, but for the thief too. It's like you're always trying to fill this void, but it never works because you're not dealing with the root of the issue.
So it's deeper than just material possessions. It's about feeling whole within yourself, complete,
Yeah.
not needing to take from others.
Exactly. True abundance, he'd say. It comes from inner peace, generosity, not from taking what's not yours.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right, third precept, refraining from sexual misconduct. This one can be a little trickier. How does Master Lu approach it?
It's about respect, really. Respecting boundaries, honoring commitments. He says getting involved sexually outside of a committed relationship, it just leads to complications, suffering. Not worth it.
So it's about responsibility, treating yourself and others with respect in all your relationships, really.
Right. Creating those healthy boundaries, making choices that support your growth, emotionally and spiritually, it all ties together.
Okay. Fourth precept, refraining from lying. This one seems pretty self-explanatory, but I'm sure Master Lu has something to add here too.
He does. He talks about how lying breaks down trust, creates separation between people. And he makes this really interesting point. Like, sometimes we lie to ourselves even, which can be even more damaging, he says.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a whole other level. So it's about being honest with others, and with yourself, being true to who you are.
Exactly. Cultivating authenticity, living in alignment with your true self. No more hiding or pretending.
And finally, we have the fifth precept, refraining from intoxication. We talked about this a bit, how Master Lu is pretty clear about the dangers of alcohol. But does he talk about other forms of intoxication too?
Oh, yeah. Drugs, obviously. But he also mentions things like too much TV, video games, even overeating. He sees those as forms of intoxication too, because they cloud your mind, prevent you from really living fully.
So anything that kind of takes us away from the present moment, makes us numb or distracted,
Yeah.
that's a form of intoxication too.
You got it. He's all about cultivating awareness, making choices that are good for us, mind, body, spirit, the whole package.
Going through all this, it's amazing how practical these precepts are. It's not just about being a good Buddhist, it's about being a good person, living a good life, period. Anyone can benefit from these teachings, really.
Totally. Like we said before, it's a framework for ethical living that goes beyond religion. Just solid advice for everyone, no matter what you believe.
I think that's a great point to wrap things up on. Master Lu says it best himself. The purpose is to help you break through confusion so that you may become enlightened, and to help you learn how to alleviate your suffering and discover your true happiness. That's what it's all about, right?
That's it. It's a message of hope, empowerment. We all have the potential to live a more fulfilling life, a life with meaning.
And it starts with those conscious choices, cultivating wisdom, living in line with our values. This has been an awesome deep dive, but there's always more to learn, right?
Always. Make sure to check out the show notes. We've got links to Buddhism in Plain Terms, Vol 1.1, more info on Master Lu, all that good stuff.
And if there are any topics you'd like us to explore in future deep dives, send us an email. We love hearing from you.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep growing.